Good morning. Get your coffee. Let's throw dinner in the crock pot. Let's go. Okay, so overnight I washed and soaked my beans. Um, these are Great Northern beans, just one whole bag. I drained them, rinsed them really well, and then just kind of shook them dry. You can really use any type of white bean for this. It doesn't have to be Great Northern beans. That is just what I grabbed at the store. You do not have to do the full soak on your beans. You can wash them and throw them into the crock pot. You will just have a longer cook time, where me soaking the beans only had a cook time of like 6 hours, where you'd want to cook it to like 9 hours-ish if you do not soak them. So I just threw in those beans into the crock pot and kind of leveled them out in the bottom. Grabbed my ham bone and threw that in there. Once I threw that in there, I kind of just shook it down so it went towards the bottom of my crock pot, so it could, all the juices and stuff wouldn't just be feeding at the top of the crock pot. I don't know, it's just something I did. I set that aside and then washed my hands and got ready for chopping everything up, the onions and the celery mostly. Something about touching ham, I don't know, freaks me out. I wash my hands after touching any type of meat, but especially that ham bone, I don't know. So I went ahead and just rough chopped this onion. It calls for a half of a large onion. I had a small onion, so I just threw the whole thing in there. I'm one of those people that think you can't over season food. Onion to me is just another type of seasoning. So I just rough chopped it up, diced it up a little bit, but wasn't trying to get anything super fine out of it. As you're going to see in a second, it's literally probably the roughest chop ever. I really didn't try to get, the perfect dice on it. I just kind of wanted it cut up into smaller pieces, so once it cooked down, I wouldn't get a whole spoonful of onion. After we're done chopping the onion, we're going to go ahead and clean our celery. I already cleaned it once, but I just did it again. I clean everything, all my produce, before I put it in my fridge. I just, after sitting in the fridge, bacteria or whatnot, I wanted to rinse it off again. I pat it dry and then slice it, not even very big. I don't do cubes. I just kind of slicely chop everything up. I'm not a big size person when it comes to fruits and veggies, y'all. You're going to learn that about me. So now that the onion's chopped up, I'm going to go ahead and just toss it into the crock pot. Y'all don't mind the fact that this crock pot is shaking. Somehow, someway, at one of the holidays last year, I lost one of the feet for it. I don't know. I need to figure out how to either buy a new one or something. It drives me nuts. So once again, here's the celery. I just kind of chop it up on the thinner side. I like celery, but a lot of people don't. But when it cooks down, it gets nice and tender. Throw that into your crock pot. Alright, so I was going to chop up garlic. I've been trying to get rid of this big thing of minced garlic forever. So I just went ahead and took like a large tablespoon and just kind of threw a whole mound in there. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I use garlic in everything and never really measure it. I just kind of eyeball it. But I did throw all of that in there. I'm obsessed with my cute little salt and pepper containers. Oh my god, y'all. Made this so easy. I threw in probably about a no, not even. Probably a teaspoon of salt. Ham is naturally salty. This was a honey baked ham bone though, so I wanted to make sure that there was enough salt to cook down with the onions, because honey baked ham, super sweet. Did about a teaspoon of pepper. And then I did a teaspoon of thyme and oregano. I like oregano a lot, and I put it in a lot of my cooking. Um, it's just, I don't know, something about the flavor of oregano in a soup is just, ugh, so good to me. Once I'm done seasoning this, I'm gonna go ahead. I grab a measuring cup so I could get like an idea of how much water I'm actually putting in to the crock pot. It was roughly 6 cups of water, but roughly about an inch to an inch and a half of water above your beans. You don't want to fill it up all the way past the ham bone, just really the beans. The ham will start cooking down and creating a broth for you. You can throw chicken broth in this recipe as well. I don't. I think the flavor of just the ham bone is super good. So I leave out any additional broth. Once I have the water in there, though, I literally just set it and forget it until like the last hour. And honestly, all the recipes that I've seen, they either use a whole large onion, 1 stick of celery. This is a big crock pot, y'all. And I like veggies, so that's why it was 2 stalks of celery for me, a whole onion. So now go ahead, set it, forget it, come back an hour before you're done. So whether it's the 5 hour mark for you or the 8 hour mark if you didn't soak your beans, just leave it there and go do something else. Okay, so we're an hour out from being done. I went ahead and chopped up carrots. Once again, a lot of recipes didn't call for a lot of veggies. They actually called for 1 normal carrot. I took a handful of carrots and chopped them up and threw them in there. Um, to me, I don't know. In soup, I feel like veggies are, they're needed. So I went ahead and threw them in. Oh Lord, look at me going and stirring with a knife. Anyway, so it's fine. Go ahead and stir those in just a little bit, just to push them down so they can cook in that broth. Set it, sit for an hour, and I will catch you in a little bit. All right, so we're back. I'm going to go ahead and take my ham bone out of the crock pot. I looked probably a little crazy doing this, but y'all, when I say this ham was falling off the bone, it fell off the bone. It did so good. At this point, my house smelled so good. I went ahead and pulled out all of the chunks of meat out of there, anything that was like big and didn't fall off or didn't shred itself, and went ahead and pulled some of the extra ham apart and threw it back in there. I was trying to avoid all the fat that would stay in the pot. That's why I really pulled out those huge chunks. Fat, I can't do it. I can't do beef fat, chicken fat, pork fat. Absolutely not. It's got to go. So I went ahead and stirred it up. Everything looked so good at this point, but was lacking a little bit more ham. If your ham bone isn't super meaty like this one really was, all I had to do was kind of chop it up because it wasn't sliced. You can throw additional ham in here. You don't even have to make this recipe with ham. If you want to throw turkey knuckles in or something like that, you can do that as well. I like ham in it. It turned out so good. I bowled it up and threw a little bit of Parmesan cheese, sawdust as I call it, but that's what I had in the fridge, um, on top of it just to stir it in. I like cheese on my soups. The broth was so good. Um, if you're making this, your house is going to smell like heaven. But honestly, in Michigan, it's so cold right now. It was a great night for some soup. This was my first time making this soup, especially with a honey baked ham bone, and oh my gosh, y'all, it was so good. I hope you love it.